Good morning, everyone. Let me start with a simple question. How many of you have ever said this to yourself? Why does this keep happening to me? Maybe it was about relationships, maybe your career, maybe money, maybe your health, or maybe you have looked at your life and thought, no matter how hard I try, I somehow end up back in the same place. So now, here is my next question. What if it isn't your life that is repeating? What if it is actually your brain? I know that's a strange idea, but stay with me because today I want to share something that completely changed the way I look at human behavior. And what I'm about to tell you is true. Then your future isn't being built only by the big decisions you make once in a while. It's being built by thousands of tiny mental decisions your brain is making every single day, most of them without you even noticing it. So, when people think about changing their future, they usually think about changing something outside themselves: a better job, a different city, a new relationship, more money, a better opportunity, and all of those things matter. But let me ask you this. If two people are given exactly the same opportunity, why does one person completely transform their life while the other stays stuck? Same opportunity but different results. Why? Most people say one person worked harder, maybe, or one person was luckier, maybe. But I think there's something much deeper happening, and it begins inside the brain. Now, before we go any further, I want to clear up one misunderstanding. I'm not here to tell you that you can think your way into becoming a millionaire. I'm not even here to tell you that positive thinking solves every problem. Life is much more complicated than that. People face real challenges, real losses, real hardships. But here is what science does tell us. The way your brain interprets the world changes how you behave in that world. The way your brain interprets the world changes how you behave in that world, and your behavior over time changes your future, and that's what we are going to explore today. So let's start with something very simple. What do you think the brain's most important job is? Most people would probably say thinking, learning, remembering, making decisions. They are all important, but they are not the brain's first priority. Your brain has one job above everything else: to keep you alive. Everything else comes after that. Think about it. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors didn't need social media. They didn't need presentation. They didn't need emails. They needed only one thing: to survive. So the brain evolved to become incredibly good at answering one question: what is going to happen next? Because if it could predict danger, it could prepare for danger. Prediction became survival, and now here is the interesting part. That system is still running today. It is alive today. The danger may have changed, but your brain hasn't, and it is still trying to predict what comes next. So let me make you make this even better by giving you an example. Suppose your phone rings, and before you even look at the screen, your brain starts guessing who could it be? Good news, bad news, a family member, your boss. You don't decide to make those predictions. They happen automatically. Or imagine like you are walking into a meeting, and before anyone says a word, your brain has already started making assumptions like people probably won't like my idea. I hope I don't make a mistake. This meeting is going to be difficult, or maybe this is going to be going to go well. Notice something, nothing has actually happened yet, but your brain is already writing the first chapter of the story. With this, let me ask you yet another question. Have you ever been learning a new word and suddenly you start hearing it everywhere? Or maybe someone in your family bought a white SUV, and within a week it feels like every second car on the road is a white SUV. Has that ever happened? Of course it must have. Now, did everyone suddenly go out and buy the same car? No. The cars were always there, but you simply started noticing them now. Why? Because your brain suddenly decided this is important. And once your brain labels something as important, it starts bringing it into your awareness. This is one of the most powerful things your brain does. Not because it changes reality, but because it changes what you notice about reality. And what you notice starts influencing the decisions you make. Now let's take this one step further. Suppose someone has believed for years, I'm not confident. what happens? When they walk into a room, what do they notice? The people who look more confident, the mistakes they made, the moments they feel awkward. Now imagine someone else walks into exactly the same room thinking, I'm still learning. Completely different mindset. What do they notice? They notice people smiling, people listening, opportunities to start conversation. Same room, same people, different brain, different experience. Now here is the important part. Neither person is lying to themselves. They are both noticing real things, but they are noticing different things because their brains are filtering reality differently. And once you understand that, you begin to realize something very fascinating. Your brain isn't just helping you experience the present, it's quietly influencing the future you will create from this present. So I'm going to stop here for a moment because this is the idea I really want you to think about today. Your future doesn't suddenly appear one morning. It's built conversation by conversation, decision by decision, thought by thought, habit by habit. And your brain is involved in every one of those moments. So perhaps the better question is not what future do I want? Perhaps the better question is what is my brain rehearsing every single day? Because whatever your brain rehearses, it becomes faster at, more efficient at, more automatic at. And eventually that begins to feel like that's just who I am. And now, if that's true, and I believe it is, then the next question becomes really interesting. Can we teach the brain to rehearse a different future? That's exactly what we are going to explore in the next part. Now, before that, I'm from Divine Gracia and I'm very grateful that you are here. Thankful to you that you are on this program with me right up till now. So the first 6-7 minutes established our important idea that your brain is constantly predicting and filtering reality. But now we have to answer the question, if that's true, what can I actually do about it? So yes, without wasting time, just before I start the part 2, I want you to quickly go down in the chat box and type I am listening, I am in. I am listening, I am in. So yeah, let's take it a little further. Imagine that after today's talk, all of us leave this hall. We walk outside and it starts raining. Exactly the same rain, exactly the same weather. Now imagine 3 different people. The first person says, perfect, I've always loved the rain. The second person says, what bad luck, this always happens to me. The third person doesn't even notice the rain. They are too busy thinking about a conversation they had this morning with someone. Now here is my question. Did these 3 people experience the same event? Technically yes, but psychologically not at all. Because life doesn't just happen to us, life happens, and then our brain immediately starts explaining what it means. That explanation matters more than most of us realize. Let me tell you something that surprised me when I first learned it. Your brain doesn't store every experience equally. It pays much more attention to experiences that carry emotion. Think back to your school days. Can you remember every ordinary Tuesday? Probably not. But you probably remember the day you won an award, or the day you were embarrassed in front of the class, or the day somebody said something that hurt you. Why? Because emotion tells the brain this is important. Remember this. Now here is where it becomes more interesting. If you have had a few painful experiences in one area of life, your brain becomes more alert the next time you are in a similar situation. So imagine someone who has laughed at you while giving a presentation in school. Years later, they are asking you to speak again in a meeting. Logically, they know they are not a child anymore, but their brain remembers something else. Last time this happened, we got hurt. So what does it do? It tries to protect them. Their heart beats faster, their palms become sweaty. They forget what they wanted to say, not because they are incapable, but because the brain is trying to keep them safe. Have you noticed something? Sometimes the brain protects us from opportunities using memories from the past. Now I want to ask you another question. How many of you have ever postponed doing something important? Like starting a business, applying for a promotion, having a difficult conversation, learning a new skill. Almost all of us have done that. And we usually say, I'm waiting until I feel ready. But what if Feeling ready isn't the problem. What if your brain is simply choosing what's familiar over what is new? Think about it. Your brain loves patterns. Patterns save energy. Patterns feel safe. That's why habits are so powerful. Once a habit is formed, the brain doesn't need to think very much. It simply repeats. That's useful when you are brushing your teeth. It's not so useful when you are repeating the same emotional habits. Let me explain what I mean. Imagine someone receives criticism. Person A immediately thinks I'm not good enough. Person B thinks interesting. What can I improve? The criticism was exactly the same, but the brain took it in two completely different directions. Now repeat that process, not once but hundred of times over 10 years. Do you think those two people will become the same person? Probably not. Not because one was smarter, not because one was luckier, but because they repeatedly interpreted life differently, and those interpretations slowly became habits. This is why I believe the future is rarely built in dramatic moments. It's built quietly in ordinary conversation, ordinary mornings, ordinary decisions that nobody else ever notices. For example, you wake up tomorrow, the alarm rings, at that moment your brain immediately starts talking. Another stressful day, or let's see what today brings. Those are only a few words, but think about something. If you start your day with those first thoughts, day after day, month after month, year after year, do you think they might influence the person you become? I think they do. Not because of magic, but because repetition changes the brain. As a doctor, one of the things I've learned is that the human body is constantly adapting. Muscles adapt, immune system adapts, even the brain adapts. Neurosciences call this neuroplasticity. It's simply the brain's ability to change based on repeated experience. That's good news because it means your current way of thinking is not necessarily permanent. But here is the important word, repeated. Not once, not twice, repeated. Your brain learns through repetition, which means every repeated thought, every repeated behavior, every repeated emotional reaction is teaching your brain something. So here is the question I ask myself quite often. What am I teaching my brain every day? Not intentionally, accidentally, because that's probably the lesson it will carry into my future. Now, before you misunderstand me, I'm not suggesting you pretend everything is positive. That's not real life. Some days are genuinely difficult, some losses cannot simply be reframed, some pain deserves to be felt. But healthy optimism isn't pretending that nothing is wrong. It's refusing to let one difficult chapter become the title of your entire story. And I think that's a very different mindset. So if I had to summarize everything we have discussed so far, it would be this. Your brain is always learning, always predicting, always filtering, always practicing. The question isn't whether it's shaping your future. The question is what future is it practicing today? Because once we understand that, something very powerful becomes possible. Maybe we don't have to wait for life to change first. Maybe we can begin by changing what we are teaching our brain one ordinary day at a time. So let me ask you one final question before we finish. If your brain has been quietly shaping your future, can you teach it to create a different one? I believe you can. Not overnight, not by repeating affirmations all day, not by pretending every problem is actually an opportunity. Real life, we know, doesn't work that way. But I do believe we can gradually teach our brain to think differently. And if I would like to leave you with a very simple framework, I call it the pause, question, choose method. Simple, 3 words, but surprisingly powerful. Let's go through it. Step 1, pause. Most of us don't live consciously, we react. Somebody criticizes us, we react. Somebody ignores our message, we react. Traffic, we react. A financial setback, we react. Notice something, in all these situations, life happened first. Our reaction came second. But it happened so quickly that it felt like one single event. Actually, there were 2 events, the situation and your response. There is always a tiny gap between them. Most of us never notice that gap. That's why the first step is simply pause. Even if it's only for 5 seconds, because you cannot change your reaction, you never notice. Step 2, question. Now this is my favorite part. Instead of immediately believing your thought, become curious about it. Let's say your brain says, I'm going to fail. Instead of accepting it, ask, is this a fact or is this a prediction? That's a completely different conversation. Or maybe your brain says, people don't appreciate me. Again, don't argue with yourself. Just ask, is this always true? What evidence might I be missing? Because remember what we discussed earlier? Your brain filters information. Sometimes it's giving you the complete picture, sometimes it's giving you a very selective picture. Questions interrupt automatic thinking, and once thinking slows down, choice becomes possible. And step 3, choose. Now, this is where people often misunderstand personal growth. Choosing doesn't mean pretending, it doesn't mean saying everything is wonderful. It means asking what response is most helpful now. Notice the difference. Not what feels easiest, not what usually do, but what response moves me in the direction I actually want my life to go. Sometimes the response is making the difficult phone call. Sometimes it is apologizing. Sometimes it is asking for help. Sometimes it is resting. Sometimes it is trying again. Different situations, same principle, conscious choice instead of automatic repetition. Now imagine doing this not once but every day, 5 times a day, 10 times a day, not perfectly but just consistently. Can you see what starts happening? You are no longer allowing yesterday's brain to make today's decision. You are slowly teaching it there's another way. And here's the beautiful part. The brain learns, not because you forced it, but because you repeated something new. That's how habits are built, that's how confidence grows, that's how identity changes. Not in one dramatic moment, but through hundreds of small moments that nobody else ever sees. People often ask me, what's the one decision that changed your life? And honestly, I don't think life changes that way. I think lives change through ordinary decisions that are repeated until they become part of who we are. One conversation, one habit, one healthier response, repeated often enough until it no longer feels difficult. Let me leave you with one image. Imagine two architects. They are both standing in front of an empty piece of land. One says, I wish a beautiful house would appear. The other quietly starts laying one brick at a time. Tomorrow another brick, next week another brick. And if you visit after 1 month, you won't see much difference. But come back after 3 years, you will see two different realities. Our mind works in much the same way. Most of us are waiting for one big breakthrough. But our future is usually built one mental brick at a time. One thought, one decision, one habit, repeated. So the next time you catch yourself saying, why does this always happen to me? Try asking a different question. What has my brain been practicing? Because that's the practice that's quietly becoming your future. Thank you. And before you leave, I would like you to do one small experiment today. Nothing complicated. Just notice your first automatic thought when something doesn't go your way. Don't judge it, don't fight it, just notice it and ask yourself, is this reality or is this simply the prediction my brain has become used to making? And that one question might be the beginning of a very different future. Next week, we are going to explore something that affects every single one of us. That is why you keep becoming the same person every year. Sometimes it's because we have inertia to change or have hesitation. And once you understand that inertia, why it happens, you'll never look at overthinking in quite the same way again. I'll see you in the next episode. Till such time, take care and do subscribe to the channel and press a like button if this stuff resonated with you. Until next time.